Good morning everyone and welcome to my channel English Literature. Today we are going to talk about Tudor Dynasty. We have already completed our journey through Renaissance and it was whatever I can remember, it was a long journey. So now we'll proceed towards Elizabethan period, and most of the kings and queens related to Elizabethan period before or after, they belong to Tudor Dynasty. So we must have a look at the kings and queens who belong to this dynasty. Okay, now come to the point. Tudor Dynasty amidst the War of Roses. War of Roses is very important for history of English literature because War of Roses comprises various characteristics and various information about the dynasties, English dynasties. The Plantagenet house, the York, the Lancaster and their originate. Whenever you will read anything, just read deeply, in details, understanding every point of it so that you will not forget. War of Roses, I have made a video on War of Roses and I will provide the link below. In that video, you will understand the root, the trees of houses, that Plantagenet house, and then how they get breached in York and Lancaster and what causes the War of Roses. Okay, so you must watch that video because if I try to again say about War of Roses and Tudor Dynasty, you will just get lost. Now, amidst the War of Roses, that is from 1455 to 1487, Henry Tudor, a descendant of John of Gaunt, who is the Duke of Lancaster, returned from exile. So, John of Gaunt, so descendant Henry-VII was in exile. So, and when England was in a devastating condition, affable unrest due to War of Roses between Lancaster and York, in that time, the time of Richard III of York, then Richard III was in English throne, who belonged to the York house, and in that time, Henry-VII or Henry Tudor just came back from exile, just like a hero, and he started Tudor Dynasty in England, terminating the rule of Plantagenet house. Sorry, it will be Plantagenet houses, both houses, York and Lancaster. And how did he do the miracle? We have already know about that. How did he do the miracle? How he stopped that long dragging War of Roses? We know that by marrying. Okay, marriage is so blissful here and so beneficial, you can say, that by marrying one from the York. Have you not noticed this type of movie? There is the enmity between two houses, two families, and they never spoke, never just interacted with one another. But the boy from the one family and the girl from the other family fall in love, and there is too much fighting, antagonism, etc. And finally they get united and they also united their families. Okay, I can't remember any name now, but I have watched. I am sure that you also have watched such type of films. So this is also like the story that Henry-VII, who was a descendant from the house of Lancaster, married a girl from York, and then just War of Roses stopped and everything is in peace. Okay. And now Henry-VII's mother. It is very important figure. She is a very important figure in history of literature because Henry-VII's mother, Margaret Beaufort, was John of Gaunt's great granddaughter. Okay. Now here, observe this chart. Edward III. Who is Edward III? Edward III is the culprit who started the War of Roses. Edward III started the War of Roses because he at the same time won the both throne, the English throne and at the same time the French throne. And that's why for him the War of Roses started. And among Edward III's various children, one was, you can find here, John of Gaunt. He was the Duke of Lancaster. He was a very powerful character because John of Gaunt was whom? He was Chaucer's patron. So John of Gaunt was Chaucer's patron, and John of Gaunt, Henry-VII, belongs to that Lancastrian group. So he was related to the house of Lancaster because he was a descendant of John of Gaunt. Okay, who was Duke of Lancaster. Now here look at the chart, you will understand more clearly. So here is Edward III, here is John of Gaunt, and John of Gaunt's son, etc. who are Henry-VII. Here you can find Henry-VII. So you can see that Henry-VII belongs to this Lancastrian house, John of Gaunt. But at the same time, so if he belongs to Lancastrian house, how we can just start a Tudor dynasty? Okay, because Henry VII's mother, look at her, Margaret Beaufort, she married. In our culture, it is not said a lady married someone. Woman does not marry, man marry. Women are gets married. But I must say you, Margaret Beaufort married Edmund Tudor. So you find that Edmund Tudor belongs to Tudor dynasty. So from that origination, Henry VII becomes the Tudor. So Henry VII, who is at the same time Lancastrian and at the same time Tudor. From his father's point of view, he is Tudor, and from his maternal point of view, he is Lancaster. Okay, now what Henry VII did? Henry VII married, you can find here, just broad it and see. I am making it dirty, you think? Okay. Henry VII married Elizabeth. And who was Elizabeth? Elizabeth worked, you can see here it is a bit hazy, but here it is written York. York's descendant. So Henry VII married Elizabeth, who was Edward IV's daughter. And who was Edward IV? Edward IV belongs to York house. So by marrying a princess from York house, Henry VII just united Lancaster and York. It was a great job. And I must say that Henry VII was a wise king. Now, like our King Akbar, Jodha Akbar. On the other side, as his mother married Edmund Tudor, a member of the Tudor family of Penyed, North Wales, he became related to Tudor family. So in this way, you can understand this point. If you go to the video of War of Roses, there will find the details of Plantagenet house. Okay, you must check it. I feel that if you check it and then read it, it will be more clear to you. The War of Roses, the video, I am mentioning it again and again. The video on War on Roses. Here actually in this video I have discussed in details about the houses and the descendants, the kings and queens in detail. So if you watch that video and then come to this, it will be more clear to you. So in this way, Henry VII belongs to both houses, the Tudor and the Lancaster. And Henry VII Tudor dynasty, he just after he married Elizabeth, he cannot say that I am Lancaster, because he married someone who is York. So he just set up Tudor dynasty. And now we'll have a look at, and Tudor dynasty continues till, also Tudor dynasty started with Henry VII and it continues till Queen Elizabeth I, 1603. Henry VII, 1485 and 1603. So Tudor dynasty is from 1485 to 1603. Okay. Now look at the kings: Henry VII, Henry VIII, Edward VI, Mary I, Elizabeth I. England during Tudor rules. Now, what happened to England during Tudor rules? What is the significance of Tudor rules? What marks they had left in that English soil when they ruled there? We have to know about that. With the Tudor rule, England stepped into an early modern era. And it was a remarkable time in English history, because you know that English Renaissance first footfall was then, and it just raised to its peak time in Tudor rule. English Renaissance footfall was already heard and it reached its peak glory in that time. This is important. Next, the Tudor rulers shaped literary England and made it most powerful. In their time, England became most powerful, not only from point of view of economy, society, also from point of view of literature. In every sphere of life, England, just glorious revolution, glorious time it was. Not that historical glorious revolution. Glorious in the meaning of its prosperity, its flourishness. Henry VII rescued England from long dragging War of Roses. It is obviously a good cause, and united the Plantagenet houses. So both Plantagenet houses, that York and Lancaster, they get united. I'll not talk about Plantagenet houses now. Just look at the War of Roses. There I have discussed why it is called Plantagenet houses and how these houses are created, why it is Plantagenet, etc., etc. Now England gained its peace, stability, and paved the way towards prosperity. When you get peace and stability in economic and social case, then only then literature can be flourished. if you had roof in your head and food in your mouth, and then you can only write poetry. Otherwise, it is not. England gained muscles over sea power. So it is Spanish Armada. We will talk about it later. Now I will discuss about the different kings who shaped the Tudor dynasty and their individual relation and their individual marks in history. Now first is Henry-VII. He marries York's kings Edward IV's daughter. That is one important thing. Just restored peace. He designed a new rose. Okay, you have to keep it in mind. What we have told, that we have know that rose, here is the roses where they go. Okay, House of York, white rose, and House of Lancaster, it is red rose. So what should Henry the Tudor will do? He is Tudor dynasty. He established Tudor dynasty. So he also established a new rose. What is the rose? This rose is white. So it belongs to both the houses. Design simple floral emblem. Inner petals are white and outer petals are red. So no one will quarrel. There is no means of debate. There is no means of any controversy. Both the color of the both houses he preserved. So there lies the wiseness of this great king. He always tried to make everything amiable, everything cooperative. So he just designed a new rose. So he was a good designer also. Now Henry-VI, whose time War of Roses actually broke. He was the half uncle of Henry-VII. And Henry-VI was most of the time, that he was insane. He was just not physically and mentally strong. And his insanity drew sympathy in the heart of the English people. So when after being the king, Henry-VII's first duty was to attain English people's faith and support. So when Henry-VII came into throne, he understand that I have to gain the support of my subjects. Find that here is Henry-VII great. He understand that a kingdom's setup, the kingdom's base lies in the faith and support of its subjects. So what Henry-VII first did? Henry-VII just gained the support of the English peoples and their faith. How? He just showed his respect towards the previous king, whom the English people loved too much. And who was the previous king? He was Henry-VI. Now Henry-VI built a chapel at Windsor Abbey, holding the remains of the king. So Henry-VII builds a chapel at Windsor Abbey, holding the remains of the king, Henry-VI. He published a book narrating Henry-VI's magical power. I don't know if he has magical power or not, at least, but Henry-VII published a book discussing his magical power. So in this way he proved that I am with you. Just I am not something outsider. Next, he not only gained acceptance and popularity among his subjects, but also his relations. He was not only a good king, but also a loving son, a caring husband, and a responsible father. He died from tuberculosis on April 21st, 1929. It is very sad. During the Henry-VII's rule, notable prosperity was visible in Renaissance England. He invited many Italian humanists to his court. While I was reading about Henry-VII, I feel that his characteristic, his everything much related to our King Akbar of Mughal Empire. In India, there is King Akbar of Mughal Empire, and I find too much similarity in both of political attitude to keep a peaceful and prosperous country. Henry-VII and King Akbar. And this man ignited English thoughts and idealism. So what did Henry-VII did? Henry-VII also take responsibility for Renaissance in England by inviting Italian humanists to his courts, thus bring also the fresh air of Renaissance from Italy. Now come to the point, Lady Margaret. Before I have told you she is an important character. So the mother of Henry-VII. She was not only from the Tudor dynasty, she originated from here because she married to Tudor dynasty. She married the prince of Tudor dynasty, but also at the same time, she was the patroness of the art and culture. She sponsored 2 colleges. So she is not only instigated the establishment of Tudor dynasty, but she also instigated the establishment of Renaissance in England. She sponsored two colleges, Christ and St. John's. Erasmus was a great scholar who taught at Cambridge. So Margaret Beaufort was a wise woman and also intellectual, and she patronized education, culture and literature of that time. And being a son of such wise great woman, what should we expect from Henry-VII? The same thing. Now Henry-VII checked the power of the nobles, feudalism. I have talked about feudalism. Feudalism was crumbling down. In what was happening in the feudalism, king who was at the topmost of the triangle had to depend on the feudal lords for the support for the army man. But the army, actually they are under the feudal lords, not direct related to king. But king find that if feudal lords attacked him, where he will go? He has no personal army. So kings tried to make a relationship, direct relationship with this army, and just checked and curbed the power of feudal lords. The nobles were very powerful as they accumulated huge armies, so it was a deep concern for the king as they could collaboratively rebel against the throne and uproot the monarch. So it is an important part on Henry-VII to check the power of the nobles. Now Henry-VII strengthened his power through matrimonial alliances. He himself married York, and his eldest son Arthur married Catherine of Aragon. Though it was sad that Arthur died, and then Catherine of Aragon was married. Catherine of Aragon married Henry-VIII, but that was fatal. That was not a good proposal. And his daughter Margaret married James IV of Scotland. So in this way, by matrimonial alliances, he just made friendship with Scotland against Spain, and he himself just make a good bond with Yorks. During the rule of Henry-VII, sea voyages and discoveries were started. John Cabot, along with his son, discovered many parts of Northern America. So Henry-VII just helped and backed in sea voyages and explorations. He appointed judges who settled dispute in the country. So Henry-VII did many things to just progress England to the modernized world. Various reformation, various rules and regulation, and just shaped it in a perfect kingdom. Scholars like Grocyn, Linacre and Colet taught Greek at Oxford. Colet also founded St. Paul's Grammar School. So we find that all the Renaissance spirit and Renaissance activities was backed and patronized by Henry-VII. Now come Henry-VIII. I don't like him at all for his 6 wives and just for his murdering of his queens. I don't like him at all. I am telling you from my heart. The main protagonist of English Reformation. He was the main protagonist of English Reformation. He declared himself the supreme head of the Church of England through the Act of Supremacy in 1534. He breached with Rome. Actually, what he did, he told that I am now free. I don't want to the Rome to poke nose in my matter. So this breach actually accelerated the freedom of religious discussion in England. He ordered dissolution of monasteries to curb Pope's authority. Okay, so actually Henry-VIII is related to English Reformation, which is very important, but he did all this just for his personal cause, not for something to make England, something to change in English scenario or England scenario. Whatever he did, he just did for his personal cause, just to marry one after another and kill one after another. Okay. Now Edward VI, he was the son of Henry-VIII, and during his time he just ruled for, you can see, very few years because he was very ill and he was very young. And in that time England became a Protestant country. Mary the First, after Edward VI died, Mary became the queen. He revived Catholic power and reunited England with Rome. So Mary was totally Catholic in spirit. He reunited the unison that was breached during the time of Henry-VIII. Mary revived that, and Protestants were persecuted, burned at stake. Elizabeth I, 1558 to 1603, she is the most she is herself glorious, Gloriana. You have find Spencer Fairy Queen. So during Elizabeth's time, England just rose its highest peak of glory. He restored Protestantism in England, and this age experienced the peak time of the Renaissance in England. She is the most important character as a literary person and also as a queen of England. People were emerging from darkness of Middle Ages and entering into the vivacious life of the Renaissance, self-confident, bubbling with patriotic zeal. And this patriotic zeal was much more influenced by or instigated by the defeat of Spanish Armada in 1588. It boosted the spirit of Englishmen. Pursuit of physical pleasure, knowledge, adventure, enjoying life, bear baiting, cockfighting, hunting. The full impact of the Renaissance was felt during this time in England. And Queen Elizabeth supported the intellectual and artistic craze of her time. Education, literature, these things developed. Okay, when we read about Elizabethan period's literature, its sonnets, poetry, prose, dramas, then you will find that England's glorious period in literature was obviously Elizabethan period. And Queen Elizabeth, in his short duration of time, how he just took England to its big glory. Henry the Tudor, Henry-VII, and here you find Henry-VIII, Edward VI. From Henry-VIII, actually Henry-VIII's three descendants ruled the Tudor Dynasty. Edward VI. Henry-VIII married one after another for a son. But where is the karma? Where is the justice? He killed Anne Boleyn. He killed again another his wives to marry again one another. For just a son. Catherine, who was his brother's wife, he married Catherine after his brother's death. But to give him divorce, he just breached with the Roman Catholic Church. But what happened ultimately? Edward VI, the fragile, weak king, just ruled for a few years. And then Catherine of Aragon's daughter, Mary, became the king. And then Anne Boleyn, who was just killed, innocent queen, she was just killed brutally, just beheaded. Her daughter Elizabeth I, a woman, became the king, and in whose time England became the most glorious place to live in. So this is, if Henry-VIII, I just imagine that Henry-VIII is watching them from the heaven or hell, whatever he had done. He is just watching, what have I done? Who are ruling the country, men or women? The fragile, weak man, weak son, Edward VI, and on the other hand there is Gloriana, Elizabeth I, whose mother he wants beheaded. Okay, I just want to say this. Don't take it too dramatic. Okay, with this, today we just finished Tudor Dynasty, and next day we'll talk about Stuart Dynasty. Thank you.